Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is the end of the March Madness tournament and the beginning of the Financial Literacy Month. So Will and I decided to put some of the more common questions or disputed, let's say, subject matters head to head and see what we get out of our own tournament bracket here, Will. So let's start at the top left. Let's go low cost ETFs versus high fee products. Now, this can be either higher fee ETFs, even, right? Or mutual funds. I know we've done some work with some annuities that we ran into some high expenses. What is your thoughts there?
Yeah, so anytime you can keep costs low, that's going to result in more money in your pocket over the long run, especially when it comes to your investments. Investment fees, high fee products eat at returns. And often it's something that clients don't even realize is happening behind the scenes. So it's important to know exactly what you're paying for. First of all, it's important to know how much you're paying. And then secondly, it's important to know what you're paying for to determine if the benefits outweigh the costs. But I'll go low cost ETFs, I think, get that win almost every single time.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. We know that we use, low cost, even indexed ETFs to really drive those costs down, and encourage everyone to look at the SPIVA report or ask me for it. I'm happy to present it to you. But, traditionally, the higher fee products generate a lower return. And it's as simple as fact of, more fees, less return can enter your bottom line product or pocket. So I agree with you there. Let's go to HSA versus FSA, and I'll let you lead the charge here. This is definitely a financial planning avenue here, but just to remind everyone, HSA standing for Health Savings Account, and then FSA, we do less with this, but it says Flex Savings Account, right, Will?
Yep, that's perfect. So the difference between the two, the health savings account, there's a little bit more requirements up front with the health plan you have to have, but then you can save your money into this health savings account, invest those dollars, and this all happens tax-free. So you get the tax deduction when you put it in. You get to invest those dollars on a tax-deferred basis. And then if you use those dollars for health expenses, you can actually pull them out of the HSA tax-free as well, as opposed to the FSA. It's a flex spending account. Yes, you are putting money into this. You get a tax deduction when you do contribute money to this account. Sometimes your employer will contribute some money to this account as well. But then if you don't use these funds by the end of the year, they are essentially gone. They are lost and you do not recover them. So generally, I would say an HSA is the better account type simply because of that feature. You get to keep your money if you don't spend it, as opposed to losing it if you don't spend it with the FSA. But just like everything financial planning related, it is very, very plan specific and situation specific. With the HSA, those requirements I had mentioned before, they are, you have to have a high enough deductible. For a family, it's over around $3,000. I think $3,300 in 2025. For an individual, just half that. But those requirements make it important that the HSA fits within your plan, right? And I know you have dealt with this quite a bit, Sean, and can maybe speak to why that's important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the one thing I would add to that is the investment piece to the HSA. The ability to roll it year in and year out allows you to keep those dollars in there, and you can actually get those invested for you, compounding for you. So yeah, definitely love the HSA. I'll definitely say that was something you opened my eyes to, bigger picture when you got here. I know that's paid off for our clients big time. So
Yeah.
moving to whole life versus term life. This is a 1-1 matchup in the world of basketball. This is one we get a lot. We're going to move through this one pretty quickly, but if you would, follow us or subscribe to our channel or something, because we're going to come out in a couple, probably within a week or two, of this conversation in greater detail, because this is a hot topic here. But when it comes to whole life insurance versus life insurance, term life insurance, which is best? I'll start here, Will. I think when I think about these two opportunities, the first thing is what are we trying to solve for, right? And I think ultimately we're trying to protect our family, our loved ones, from a death, from an adverse situation where we lose income and the ability to pay debts or put your kids through college, or just have enough income to live. And so our process, generally, is what is the easiest, most cost effective, right, and simplistic way to solve the problem we're trying to solve, which is where term life insurance comes into play. And then the last thing I would say is, I rarely talk to people who say, oh, I was able to retire, or I built wealth, or I got rich because of my whole life insurance policy. And I think there's a lot of wording that comes out in the world of whole life insurance around, investments and guarantees and all, being able to grow your cash value, and it comes out tax free. There's all this lingo associated with whole life that could make you believe there's significant opportunity there. But again, you don't ever, I mean, I've been doing this for a while now. I don't see that on paper where people are accumulating life-changing wealth, through whole life insurance. So that's my 2 cents.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I do love that you pointed out it's, very situationally dependent. And it's the words you use were, what are we solving for? I think, and I could go on forever. I'll kind of try to keep this brief, but whole life insurance, is not for your younger accumulator clients, right? It's really not even for your, average retiree. Whole life insurance, and we'll talk about this more in detail in our next video, so follow us to stay tuned for that. But it is really for, a situation where you may be over the death tax limit, right? And you're foreseeing a future where you have to pay death taxes, and you don't want to leave your family with that burden. Maybe there's a large, real estate holding that's illiquid. You don't want to have to force your family to sell that real estate holding or business to cover the estate tax. That's where whole life insurance can really make a difference. But as far as, what's going to end up better for the average individual, term life is usually the way to go.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Let's go to credit card safety net versus emergency fund. What do you think there?
Yep. So classic 1 versus 16 matchup here. I think, emergency fund, there is, you're actually earning interest on that money instead of having to pay at, crazily high levels when you go the credit card safety net route, versus, having an emergency fund, very predictable. Credit card safety net can get you into a lot of trouble if it continues to snowball. So pretty cut and dry one here. I think emergency fund takes this 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10 times in my book.
Yeah, I know there's a classic definition of emergency fund as having access to capital, right? Which credit cards provide you that. But yeah, the downward spiral that can take you should you not be able to remedy that emergency situation fast enough, ends up being pretty heavily costly, not only as far as dollars and cents, but emotionally as well. It can be draining there. So yep. Very good. Let's jump over to the right side of the bracket here. No tax strategy versus tax efficient investing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I am a very, very big proponent of tax planning. I love doing tax planning work. Navigating the tax code is a fun kind of game to play, and something that you can actively, win at, I believe. So I always believe in, tax efficient investing as an important piece to any financial plan, versus, no tax strategy. You're really just kind of, hanging on for dear life. You're rolling the dice and hoping that you can navigate your situation in a way where these taxes don't bite you down the road. So definitely tax efficient investing can set you up for more returns in your pocket, right? Less costs, paid throughout the life of your financial plan, can eat into that investment return as well.
Yeah, something we hear a lot in this category is people, with tax efficient investing, we're thinking 401ks, IRAs, things of that nature. And it can feel restrictive because you have to wait till you're 59 and a half to be able to withdraw or, use a 72T early or whatever it may be. But there are guidelines to that, right? And the time frame makes it say, oh, I don't want to wait that long for my money. I think the thing to realize is most of the time you're not going to, retire at 45, 50, 55 and want access to that. And if you do, and you're on pace for that, then let's just do a little of both, but let's not ignore just because you have to wait a little bit longer, to have the access to those money. Let's not forget the real impact of not having to pay taxes on significant portion of your assets. So
And yeah, tax planning, tax efficient investing can go even, beyond simply just, 401ks and IRAs, right? It's about placing certain assets in certain account types to take advantage of the tax code. For example, high growth stocks that aren't going to pay you a lot of dividends may be better off in a taxable account, right? Where we don't have to pay capital gains every single year. We can let that grow. But still have the flexibility that you were mentioning, Sean. And then putting, high tax interest earning investments into a 401k or IRA, right? So it's a holistic approach to, figuring out where assets best fit in response to navigating the tax code that's been laid out for us.
absolutely. Love that. Love that. Moving to saving to save versus having that financial plan, with goals.
Yeah, so I think everybody can kind of guess where we fit in here, but it is truly amazing to see the power of, putting money to work for specific goals, and just, not only how much better that makes your situation, but how much happier that makes the clients we work with. It's crazy to see someone come in, with a ton of money saved in their savings account, but never really paid any much attention to what this money is used for, right? And they, start talking to us. We uncover goals and needs and wishes and wants, and put a plan in place to achieve all these. You can just see the joy and the happiness on people's faces. So having a plan in place helps you not only in the dollars and cents terms of the plan, but it also helps your mental attitude, and it helps your relationship to money. So definitely financial planning with goals can make you feel better and help you accomplish a lot more than just stacking, cash away in your savings account each month. So
Yeah, I love that. In our fit meeting, our introductory brochure, I know, like, don't quote me on the exact number, but it's something like people who build financial plan with detailed goals, end up accumulating about 3 to 4 times as much money as those that don't, because every time we talk and we're reminded of the why behind what we're doing, that's motivational. I see that. I see people being more motivated when it's documented. And then obviously that's in the numbers as well.
Yep, for sure. And as well, in the saving to save category, what we see most often, right, is people really just, if there's no goal behind why you're saving, you're ultimately going to end up spending that money more often than not. So definitely having goals, having a reason why to save, and having a partner that can provide some accountability in the form of an advisor or a team like us can definitely really, really help your situation.
Yep, exactly. Moving to no withdrawal strategy versus a 5-year income plan. I can kind of maybe start that with the emotional side of it, and then you can touch on the more planning tax side of it. Obviously we do a lot of work with what we call our retirement distribution strategy, a 5-year income plan, and we work really hard with our pre-retirees and retirees, building out a specific strategy around how much money they need in each of the next 5 years, and making sure there is an investment strategy and a particular investment tied to each of those 5 years. And the core behind why we do that is so that our clients can mentally associate an investment or a dollar amount with their spending need. And in moments like we're in right now, when the market is down, we can remind our clients, and they can remind themselves, that, hey, I have a plan and a strategy for 5 and sometimes 6 years of my withdrawals that I need in retirement are set aside in those special investments that traditionally have some sort of protection built into those, whether it's FDIC insurance or full issue or protection or whatever it may be. There is something there that says the money I need to spend, which is all what we're after, right? In that retiree space, is just being able to have the money we need to spend when we need it. And we really proactively prepare our portfolios for that. So from my side, it's the mental piece, the emotional side of investing, to where you can really, whatever you're seeing in the news and in the markets that is scaring you, our goal for our clients is to be able to compartmentalize that and say, I'm protected for 5 or 6 years. That particular thing is not an issue to me. So that's how I feel about, having a really detailed withdrawal strategy for the emotional side of it. What say you on the more tax planning number side of it?
Yeah, definitely. So we've run into this situation quite a lot of times where somebody will come to us and say, I've recently retired and I've been withdrawing a little bit from here, a little bit from this account, a little bit from this account. And you overall, you look at it, right? And the effect that that has on your taxes long term, if you're not intentional about, what account types that you're withdrawing your money from, that can create a way, way larger tax burden on you over the life of your financial plan than saying, hey, this is specifically our withdrawal strategy. We're doing it because of these reasons. And not to mention, yeah, what you just talked about the emotional side is huge. But also, if you're just pulling money from random accounts and not, having a solid income plan of where that money's going to come from, it can definitely create a lot of headaches. Both today and down the road when you realize you've paid way too much in taxes.
Lastly, our last big mismatch here, the estate plan versus probate.
Yeah, so definitely I'm taking the estate plan every single time. Probate sounds like a nightmare. Having an estate plan, having a trust, a will, having powers of attorney in place, knowing your trustee, and naming those, all before that event happens saves your family a ton of headaches, as well as keeping all of those assets and all of that process, away from the public eye, away from lawyer costs, away from court fees, and being able to direct it according to your wishes, so that you make sure that the money you've worked hard to earn and accumulate goes exactly to your beneficiaries in the exact way you want it. As opposed to, if you go through probate, the judge is just going to say, well, I believe it flows according to this, beneficiary list, and he kind of gets to not necessarily pick and choose, but in accordance with the law, choose, where those assets end up. So I am taking estate plan every single day. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I'll add two things to that. One is just how about being organized? Right? Yes, it does the blocking and tackling for you, but how about that just feeling of being organized, that you know where your assets are at, you know who's in charge, they know where your assets are at, where your money's at, who are your advisors, who are your tax advisors. So being organized, I think, is just so under, valued in the world of finance. So being organized would be number one. And number two, we are working with a new company here that is approved through our broker to be able to do estate plan. So if you're a client of ours, we have been doing this for a while, but we really have a really nice program we're working with here. If we haven't got one to you yet, or you just put it off, give us a call. We can help you with that across the country. So don't hesitate. It's pretty low cost to entry. And then if you do need a more complex estate plan, we definitely have people across the city we can refer you to. Don't put this stuff off. Get organized, get yourself set up. It just takes a little bit of time investment. It's really not all too complicated. It does just take a little bit of time. So, yep, estate plan all day long. Will, I appreciate you taking the time. We appreciate all of you watching. Yeah, be sure and follow us or subscribe. Financial Literacy Month coming up. We plan on creating a decent amount of content to educate and inform all of you. And then lastly, we really hope you enjoy the end of March Madness and the games this weekend. So thanks again, Will. We appreciate it.